This morning, the long, arduous task of removing the wreckage of the Francis Scott Key Bridge is underway.
The bridge that protects us from the water is in the water.
Details are coming from the voice and data recorders that were on that ship.
Crews are working around the clock after the deadly bridge disaster.
On 26th of March 2024, at the Port of Baltimore, the captain of this cargo ship was preparing to set sail for Singapore. Everything was checked, and the engineers gave a green signal. But little did they know that they were hours away from witnessing one of the worst shipping disasters in America's history. But you will be blown away by the shocking revelations made by NTSB after recovering the ship's black box.
I need one of you guys on the south side, one of you guys on the north side, hold all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching that just lost their steering.
Which might give us some insights into who is responsible for the disaster. So a couple of quick questions. What exactly did the pilot say to the Maryland Transportation Authority seconds before the collapse, and why did the second generator also turn off? But before we reveal these important insights, we would like you to support our work by liking and subscribing to the channel. To understand the importance of this mysterious black smoke coming out of the ship, it's necessary to understand all the minute details that happened that day. The disaster strikes. The ship's name is the Dolly. She is a container ship that has been sailing for 9 years and is registered in Singapore. The Dolly is quite large, measuring approximately 948 feet in length, 147 feet in width, and with a draft of 36 feet. Her deadweight tonnage is an impressive 116,000 tons. The Dolly's planned voyage was from Baltimore through the Chesapeake Bay, across the Atlantic, around southern Africa, and then to port in Colombo, Sri Lanka, a journey expected to take 26 days. Just before the accident, it was a little past midnight on March 26, 2024. On the motor vessel Dolly, there was a lot of hustle and bustle as the crew prepared to set sail. In the engineering areas, engineers were starting up engines, generators, air conditioning units, seawater cooling pumps, and other equipment needed for the journey. Meanwhile, on the front part of the ship, several able seamen were getting the anchor ready, a crucial task in case of emergencies to ensure the ship stays in a safe position rather than drifting. On the deck, more able seamen were supervising junior deckhands as they prepared to pull in all the lines. However, they were still waiting for instructions from the master in the pilot house, the central control area of the ship. The master and first mate were double-checking everything before departure, making sure all radar systems were working. Containers were secured, shore services were disconnected, steering gear was checked, and main engines were started. Once the first mate confirmed that everything was ready, the Dolly was prepared to set sail. As the tugs guided the Dolly into the open waters, little did they know that disaster was about to strike. The Dolly had to carefully navigate through the ports and harbor before making a left turn into the channel. During this maneuver, the ship adjusted its course to roughly 140 degrees true and maintained a cautious speed, likely around 8 to 10 knots due to the narrow channel's constraints and the risk of squatting, where the ship's stern could hit the bottom at high speeds. Following the rules of navigation, the Dolly hugged the right side of the channel as she headed eastward. However, trouble began when the ship experienced its first loss of power around 1:24 a.m. Wait for a few minutes. We will dissect in detail what did the black box reveal and what the pilot said to Maryland police during this time. This loss of power affected crucial systems, including steering and propulsion. Pilots assisting the Dolly recommended a maneuver to port the rudder to counter the current, pushing the ship toward the bridge. Despite regaining power briefly, the Dolly faced additional power losses, causing a loss of control. In a last-ditch effort to prevent a collision, the pilots ordered the anchor to be dropped. But due to the power issues, the crew couldn't release the anchor. The ship then attempted to go backward by injecting fuel into the engines and using the rudder, but the maneuver failed, resulting in a collision with the bridge. Fortunately, the bridge was reportedly empty of personnel at the time of the collision, according to the Coast Guard and Baltimore Police, although 8 construction workers were on the bridge during the incident. But the black box gives us more information as to what happened. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more updates. black box revelation. The account provided by federal officials offers a chilling glimpse into the events leading up to the tragic disaster, serving as a crucial focal point. According to the timeline presented, a series of alarms pierced the night just before 1:25 a.m., signaling the onset of impending chaos. Moments later, at approximately 1:26:39 a.m., distress calls were made by the on-duty pilot to nearby tugboats, urgently seeking assistance in the tense situation unfolding. At 1:27:25 a.m., amidst escalating urgency, the pilot communicated a distressing message over the radio, confirming the loss of power aboard the Dolly as the ship ominously edged closer to the looming bridge structure. Simultaneously, swift actions were taken on the ground, with the officer in charge for the Maryland Transportation Authority swiftly ordering the closure of traffic lanes at both ends of the bridge.
I need one of you guys on the south side, one of you guys on the north side, hold all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching that just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we gotta stop all traffic.
A decision that likely proved pivotal in averting further catastrophe and safeguarding lives. As the clock ticked towards 1:29:33 a.m., the VDR, Voyage Data Recorder, captured haunting sounds, seemingly echoing the moment of impact as the bridge and vessel collided in a heart-wrenching crescendo of disaster. Just 6 seconds later, the pilot relayed the grim news to the Coast Guard, confirming the devastation wrought by the collapsing bridge.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start is whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
But as we get to know the details of the black box, one might wonder who's responsible for the collapse. Who's guilty? According to some marine experts, this incident is primarily attributed to the ship, its operators, and its owners, irrespective of the bridge's protective measures, which were evidently insufficient. The initial blackout in the main power system is viewed as a significant lapse in responsibility by the ship's operators. The complete failure of the main power system, given the presence of multiple redundancy layers, is considered highly unlikely and indicative of severe negligence. Following the blackout, the emergency generator kicked in after 40 seconds, as per protocol, evidenced by the observed smoke. However, its subsequent failure within a short time frame is deemed another major lapse. The simultaneous failure of both main and emergency power systems without significant vessel damage or negligence in maintenance or operational protocols is deemed implausible. There exist sophisticated power management systems designed specifically to prevent such failures. During these power failures, propulsion systems would cease functioning as they rely on fuel, lube oil, and cooling pumps connected to both main and emergency electrical systems. Nevertheless, the ability to steer clear of hazards should not have been compromised. The ship is equipped with redundant steering hydraulic power units, HPUs, linked to both main and emergency electrical systems. Even if the main power fails, emergency power should have swiftly restored steering functionality within a minute. Given the ship's speed of 7 to 8 knots after the initial reignition, there should have been sufficient time to correct its course. Any deficiencies noted during inspections are deemed inconsequential to the reliability of the steering gear or the loss of both power systems. The ship's design incorporates numerous redundancy layers to ensure operational continuity, yet these layers failed, indicating severe operational negligence on the part of the vessel operators and owners. But there are differing opinions, with some suggesting that the bridge's construction might be a contributing factor, specifically the lack of protective measures for the bridge pillars. In certain areas in the U.S., such as concrete dolphins, are installed to safeguard bridge pillars, but this wasn't observed at the Baltimore Bridge. Additionally, concerns have been raised about the narrowness of the shipping channels in Baltimore, particularly the space between the pillars, which may have played a role in the incident. The investigation into the incident involving the Dolly and the bridge in Baltimore reveals a complex interplay of factors. While some point to potential shortcomings in the ship's systems and operations, others raise concerns about the bridge's design and protective measures. Ultimately, thorough analysis and corrective actions are essential to prevent such tragedies in the future. It underscores the importance of continuous evaluation and improvement in maritime safety protocols and infrastructure maintenance to ensure the well-being of both crew members and the public. What are your thoughts on this? Do let me know in the comments. And like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates.